You have to be really intentional about putting a team together.
I was in!
Crawled out of the pod and started screaming.
How good is Joey Bosa?
Herbert, rolling, looking, throwing, end zone, touchdown! It's intercepted. Derwin James. Derwin was there.
You got to be on a mission every day in the NFL. But even more than that, you got to be on a mission together.
Great hands, Keenan Allen.
The Los Angeles Chargers select Rashawn Slater.
Asante Samuel Jr. Stop! Oh, I'm stopping y'all boys. I can't get it. Intercepted. Picked off by Michael Davis. Explosiveness from Eckler.
There's Murphy. Boy, he blew that up, didn't he?
It is picked off. Nasir Adderley. 50-50 ball is 100%. Mike Williams.
Ochena, Nwosu, and that will end it.
Dan. Jeez. Screwed it up, man. Wow.
We're live.
We're
We're
gonna do
live
it today.
High quality
Welcome
production.
to another edition of Chargers Unleashed. Jake Hefner and Dan Wolkenstein and Ryan Dyrud here from the LAFB Network. If you are joining us live on YouTube, obviously it's live as you can see with the malfunctions, but make sure you hit that like and subscribe button as we're bringing you coverage throughout training camp, and we'll continue to do so throughout the regular season. Today's podcast, of course, is being brought to you by Charger Bolt Family, UFC Fit, Brewery X, and Manscaped. Make sure to use the promo code LAFB20 for your next purchase. Go to manscaped.com for more details. Gentlemen, day 9 of training camp in the books. Our very own Dan Wolkenstein was there on the scene today, was keeping everybody informed with all the plays that were being made today in training camp. Dan, how was it out there?
I am hyped. I am jacked up, ready to go for this episode. This was by far the best training camp that I've been to. This is by far the most takeaways I have gotten from a Chargers training camp. Tons of goodness that we'll get into today. This training camp was great. Went longer than any other training camp so far. Got to see a lot more of the ones. Got to see a lot more one-on-ones as well. Also saw a ton of special teams. But we saw some sick plays, some great schemes, some not so good things. But today was a great day for Bolt fam watching this Chargers go through the training camp. How about you guys watching virtually, watching digitally on Twitter and the likes? How was it for you?
I mean, I'll jump in.
Good, Ren.
Yeah, as good as it can get. It seemed like there was a lot of excitement. Mainly, I was just watching your feed and seeing what you did. So this is going to basically be the Dan Wolkenstein show, as he just talks for an hour or so about what he did at camp.
Yes.
And, but yeah, I from what I could tell, good things. And I just have to say, while we're doing this live, we also the Rams are right now having joint practice against the Cowboys in Oxnard. So we have our Chauncey Talese up in Oxnard reporting on your Rams. So I doubt there's any Rams fans in here right now, but maybe they've trickled in just to check us out. And
shameless plug. It's totally fine.
You know, it's the LAFB Network, so we got it all covered. But anyway, excited about this day 9. I think we now over the halfway point of training camp technically?
Just about.
I think we are.
We get preseason games next week, so sounds about right.
It's weird because technically we still have 4 weeks until the regular season, but like training camp is like 18 practices or something weird. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Always helpful to have founder of LAFB Network on plugging other shows than Chargers Unleashed, getting this thing kicked off nicely. Guys, we have all kinds of folks listening from different platforms. You're on YouTube, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on Twitter following us. This is a family show. Like to have fun with the fam. So if you guys have any questions or comments, we will go through them live as we proceed with our takeaways. We'll have key storylines throughout. Don't be a stranger. Don't be shy. Have fun. I swear Jake doesn't bite unless it's after 12 p.m. So Jake bites. So let's be careful.
When you're saying it's a family show, Dan, Bolt family, yes, I get that. But I don't remember any, MPAA ratings on this show. I don't think there's boundaries here.
Yeah. Thank you for the correction. This is our family, and our family doesn't hold back. However you want to talk, you do you. Let's just be respectful. So, guys, today, tons of takeaways. So, just to kind of kick off the topics that I kind of wrote down for myself as like the things that we have to talk about. And there was a ton. I mentioned at the top, there's a bunch of takeaways. Justin Herbert looked very good today. very successful. The offense as a whole, I think, punched back. We saw a lot of talk about the defense doing really well so far in training camp. Defense still did great. Offense clicked today. We got to talk about Keenan Allen and the murder that we saw on the field to Michael Davis. Asante Samuel Jr. looking very good. Kyzir White's looking good. Joey Bosa, special teams getting all kinds of play time today. Actually got a chance to talk to Tom Telesco for a bit, for like 5 minutes. A bunch of 11-on-11. Run blocking looking great. Defense looks good. Josh Kelley standing out. Lots of tight end catches. And KJ Hill with a trick shot, taking, I think, 7 balls in hand. I think it was 6 balls that he had already in his possession, and the 7th one he caught. That was the trick of the day. No breakdancing today, Jake, unfortunately.
I've never, just a joke, I've never understood the point of doing that. Like, every team camp, players do it. You see it on every team. There's a video of guys doing that. I'm like, what the hell is the point? You're never going to be catching 7 balls at one time in a game. Like, just,
well, you're returner.
Catch one.
You're a returner. Why would someone want you to do that?
I'm sure there's some reason, like they say, like hand-eye coordination or learning to catch different points of the ball, different reference points or something. But I think it's stupid because it's like, for me, like when I've played and also like trying to coach and like teach young kids, I'm like, you practice how you want to play. So why am I going to practice something that's never going to come up in a game? I want to practice the things that are actually going to be applicable to a game. So to me, it's a meme basically for fans and video. I don't see any purpose to it.
You know, and maybe it's a test for him, because if he can catch him and hold him in his armpit at the same time, then maybe it's more of him just testing himself to make sure, like, bro, if you can catch balls by having 3 under your arms here, 3 under your arms here, there's no way that you can't catch one ball.
You better not have a damn fumble. You better not have a damn muffed punt all season if you're catching 7.
He literally had
it's a nice show, but show up when it counts.
He had the 6th ball literally between his legs, which I feel like that's
not ideal.
So
not what you want when you have crashing gunners.
Yeah, right.
You never want to have 6 balls between your legs, let alone 1 underneath your 6. I mean, it's a bad
As we said, not a true family show. As we said, this is not a Pixar production.
No. Shout out to Anthony Hopper. What's up, fellas? Shout out to JWalt16 giving us a big yo with 16 O's. JWalt16, hello. Yes, above average gamer. JK standing out is good to hear. Definitely. Actually got a chance to talk to him for a bit today too. Joshua Kelley had some games, had some plays today that we have not seen from him so far. All right, so where do we start? I gave a long list. Let's give the people what they want. Ryan, you have said before that Justin Herbert has looked off. And to clarify, off does not mean bad, but he has not looked perfect. And he's missed a few throws every practice, which that is to be expected. Today, Justin Herbert looked very good.
Love it.
He
listened to me.
Yes, he did. He listened to our show. He saw you and was like, I got to show Ryan up. I got to shut this guy up.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert on, I think it was red zone drills, went 4 for 5 from the 15-yard line, 4 for 5, at least 3 touchdowns. I want to say it was 4, but it was like they're kind of getting tackled at the 5-yard line, 3-yard line, and who knows what happens. Yeah. You saw Justin Herbert on the far field, who was doing all kinds of drills, doing kind of toe tap throws after a bootleg, throwing it to the sidelines, and was on a dime, like throwing them like crazy. Very good throws in 11-on-11. The only throw that was he had one throw in the red zone that could have been picked. I want to say it was, I don't remember who it was. There's a defender that had his hands on him. And then there was one kind of chucked Hail Mary towards the end of 11-on-11 where he just threw it up where literally everyone was in the end zone except him for the most part. Justin Herbert looked very good. There was a few touchdowns he threw in red zone. There was one play in particular that he threw, and I want to say it was a misdirection play. And maybe the offense as a whole heard how much this defense was ahead, because Justin Herbert threw this misdirection play and Keenan Allen was wide open. Not the one he killed ankles, but another one. He was wide open, corner of the end zone, nobody around him. Similar to like that Parham catch that he made where he made one person miss and then just kind of walked into the end zone. Herbert was hyped. He was like fist bumping up high. He knew it felt like he was saying like, all right, defense, we got you back. Justin Herbert looked crisp today. We saw it early. So I'll let you guys talk about that for a sec. But Justin Herbert did not disappoint today for the fans.
It's optimistic, and this is kind of what we talked about on yesterday's show. I mean, with yesterday's practice being 75% special teams, you really only got a small sample size of what the offense was really doing out there, whether it was on 7-on-7s or 11-on-11s. But even on that small sample size, Herbert looked inconsistent on some throws. The throw that I remember from yesterday's practice that I had forgotten yesterday was a short dump off to Austin Eckler that he actually threw behind him, and Eckler did a great job of catching it down in the flat before running off with it. And then after that, he got what would have been a sack and then threw it downfield to the left side and unfortunately just overthrew it. And then literally it was Chase Daniel's turn to come in. So to see him bounce back in a big way like this when on Friday's practice it didn't look that good is extremely encouraging. And these are the ebb and flows that we've talked about in camp, with everybody talking about the offense looking bad and the defense dominating. Look, I'm not worried about the offense. I'm worried about the defense. It was this team's Achilles heel last year, especially under different coaching. When you have guys that are this good on the defensive side of the ball showing up like this, it's only going to make your offense better in the long run. And the defense is going to have to show out consistently on a week-to-week basis, because we know that what Justin Herbert's capable of. We know that he's capable of putting up 35 points a game. Last year, unfortunately, the defense would traditionally give up 37, and it would happen on the last play of the game or in the last 2 minutes of the game. So the defense needs to be better, and all the signs that are coming from that have been encouraging. But for Justin Herbert to bounce back the way that he did just goes to show you how this training camp is. You just got to take the highs and the lows. The ebb and flows are going to come. He's still learning. As much as we all love him and love watching him play, it's year 2, and he is under a different coach and many different coordinators.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I try not to be too critical, but I just feel like really no one has been critical at all of Herbert since the season he had, which is fair because of how great he's played. So I was just trying to keep it real in the sense that he's just been a little off. Hasn't been bad. He's not like throwing like tons of picks, but when, as Jake mentioned, when you're underthrowing a dump off route or throwing it behind a guy, or you're overthrowing Keenan Allen on a deep route, or, you're missing guys here and there, it's like something like, okay, it's just a timing thing. It's just getting on the same page. And so it's good to hear that today it looked a lot better. And the red zone, I think, is what I'm most excited to hear about, Dan, because red zone has not looked good on offense. They've struggled mightily against this defense in the red zone. I think I said the last day I was there on Tuesday, they were like 2 for 11 or something, like very poor efficiency in the red zone. And that was something they struggled with last year too. So hearing that they did much better today, I don't know if they did different concepts or just feeling more comfortable, or if, Herbert was just quicker in his decision-making, but that's very encouraging to hear.
Yep. Yeah, I would say first pass, touchdown, second pass, touchdown, third pass, I think was the one that could have been intercepted. I think the fourth pass was a touchdown to Parham in the middle. And then the last touchdown, I believe, was the Keenan Allen one where he just shook ankles. Why don't we go
real quick, Dan? Real quick. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think what I'm really excited about too is how often they're actually using Donald Parham. Because last year it was kind of like he was a 5 play a game guy, and he knew exactly what he was going to do every time, just a little corner, fade thing. And it's exciting to see them use him and Cook a lot in this offense. So just wanted to point that out. But
yeah,
perspective. It's an amazing thing to have in this league.
Yeah.
we talked about it, Jake. You and I talked about it on the show. We were saying how it's amazing to think of them actually being able to do 2 tight end sets and having these mismatches where you have a Donald Parham who's freaking 6'8", 6'9", and all of it. He's by far the biggest player on the team.
He's 17, I think.
Jared Cook is not far off. And so both these guys, that's actually one of the points I had. Both of them saw a ton of reps today and actually caught a lot of balls. They were the ones that I saw most from a receiving point of view with the most action. So both tight ends looked very good today. We saw a lot of action from Donald Parham and Jared Cook. Jared Cook had a nice catch up the middle during the beginning of 11-on-11, which was interesting because they had, Ryan, I don't know if you know this, but when we were there, they would go from 11-on-11, then they would go off and do drills. Then they'd go back to 11-on-11 with the 1s and 2s, then go back. And then they probably went back and forth probably 4 times, where every time I'm like, oh, that's it? Okay. And then they came back. I was like, oh, cool. Mm-hmm. So it was interesting to kind of they were not just doing 11-on-11 for 45 minutes. They just did 11-on-11 for 15, stop. Then went again, then stop. Is that normal?
Yeah. I mean, each team does it differently, but I think the reason that the Chargers are doing that, and I actually like it, is they want that game flow. You're not ever going to be on the field as an offense for 45 straight minutes running 11-on-11. So it's basically they'll time it out 5-minute session or a 2-minute drill or something like that, and then go break into special teams or do that, because that's kind of the game flow, what it would actually be. And it's able to get reps in for all the guys. It's able to get guys that aren't going to play offense or defense that are going to be special teams. They're not just standing on their feet, sitting on their hands for 30 minutes. So it's keeping everyone involved. So yeah, you definitely see that. That's why it was weird that when we were comparing yesterday the Rams and Chargers camp, the Rams is usually like that too. But I was saying how odd it was that few days ago when the Rams ran like 11-11 for literally like 45 straight minutes. But that for them was rare. They're usually the same way as what the Chargers have been this year, where it's 5 minute, the horn blows and they get in the field goal. Horn blows back to 7-on-7. Horn blows, blah, blah. So I think it's more just to get that kind of game flow going.
Got it. We are live with LAC_Unleashed on Twitter. We got Ryan Dyrud here in the house talking all things Chargers training camp day number 9. The goal here, we said at the top, got a whole bunch of topics we want to cover. And as the questions and comments and topics come in from all of you listeners and viewers, we'll go ahead and kind of weave in and out of those topics throughout. Ergo, we now have a topic or question from Trey. I'm terrible with names. Gosh?
Gosh.
Let's do it. And he asked, how is pass protection looking? Would be nice to see Herbert not get killed this year. Yes, it would be very nice. Jake, to you so far, how has the pass protection looked so far?
I kind of feel like we're a broken record here, just in terms of like the offensive lineman. If you were to take a look at it right now, again, everything is still gelling with this offensive lineman, personnel. 4 of the 5 guys on this roster were not here last year. So we have to remember that. They put on pads, it's been 3.5 straight days of practice with pads on. So they're still coming along. I mean, yes, I understand the question as far as it'd be nice to see Herbert not get killed this year. Hey, wouldn't we all? He was the second most hit quarterback in the league last year. And even Joey Bosa ended up getting what Staley said was too close to him today for what was a sack.
Yep.
So yeah, you never want to see stuff like this, especially even happen in practice. But Rashawn Slater's had his moments. I believe it was Ode Boucher has had his moments in practice as well. But again, it's ebb and flows. I mean, for me, I enjoy seeing the battle between Rashawn Slater and Joey Bosa. I think these are 2 guys that love going against one another. Rashawn Slater's actually having a lot of confidence when he's getting these wins against Joey Bosa for himself, to say that if he can protect Herbert from Bosa in practice, then he can protect it from anybody in the league. And elsewhere, I'm excited to see things from Tillery. Tillery had what would have been a sack yesterday in practice on 11-on-11s. So he's coming along. Linval Joseph, I've been seeing, is getting penetration up the middle. So again, it's still just all a maturation and a gelling point for this offensive line. But I think when we get to the regular season, it's going to come around. But it's definitely not going to come without some attrition. Again, the first 6 games of the year are extremely tough for this Chargers team. And wouldn't you know it, you have one of the best defenses in the league that you get to go up against in week 1 in Washington. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I fully agree with that. I would love to see Herbert get hit a hell of a lot less this year.
Yep. Samuel Pena, let's expand on Herbert a bit, was asking about Justin Herbert's footwork. And Ryan, you talked about on the last training camp recap where he said he kind of was looking a little trigger happy with his feet and wasn't setting them. Today, he looked pretty well set with his feet. There was one where he did a kind of bootleg route and hit, I want to say it was Jalen Guyton, had a great catch on the sidelines on the run for Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, I mean, again, like we're all nitpicking at this point. Like his footwork's fine.
Yeah.
But like, could it have been better the last couple of days? Sure. But like his footwork's great. And he has probably arguably the best arm in football and he can get away with it. But it will affect accuracy at some points if he doesn't set, which is where Ryan was a little concerned with. Today, Justin Herbert looked pretty good. Jake, your friend of the show. Let's get the impression here. We got Vince McMahon asking, where the hell have you been? Followed by, it's the Chargers with 3 R's, 4 G's, and 3 R's again. Where the hell have you been? Thank you for listening and watching. Let's go. Question from JD number 3. Let's talk about offensive line for a sec. Was Balaga given a vet day today? Short answer, yes, he was. Offensive line today looked pretty good. Justin Herbert was rarely touched, but he was, at least, let me rephrase. The first team offensive line looked pretty good. Second team, third team, not so much. You saw Easton Stick and Chase Yano they probably were sacked 10, 15 times. But, they kept playing, kept throwing. Offensive line as a whole looks pretty good. They did give up the strip sack to Joey Bosa. He didn't really even touch him. He more just like hit the ball out of his hands. Overall, the offensive line is looking good. Question coming from Michael Jost here. Any news on Michael Davis? Feels like we have hardly heard anything about him. I don't know if this is...
Michael Davis was in the news today, but for all the wrong reasons, that's for sure.
Yeah, we'll use that as a segue. Today, I'm sitting there, guys, and I'm watching the red zone drills go through. And on the far sideline, you see Keenan Allen matched up, who I thought was Nas Adderley, but I think Nas was actually the safety over the top, but he was all around that same area. But he was actually going up against Mike Davis. Keenan Allen, the slayer he is, the murderer of all ankles, makes an in cut as a second move. Third move jumps back outside, turns Michael Davis completely around 360. Michael Davis is not 10 yards from Keenan Allen. I think everyone now has seen all the video clips where you just hear Keenan Allen going, wow, wow. Like he was that open. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh no, someone just left his shoes. So on one side, Keenan Allen is as advertised. He is that dude. And it's hard going against him. And Michael Davis was falling victim today from Keenan Allen. But if we're going to transition to someone who did not fall victim from Keenan Allen, number 47 overall, Derwin James' best friend, it seems like at times, Asante Samuel Jr. looked great today. Today, you saw one-on-one drills where Asante Samuel Jr. is going up against... First, he went up against Keenan Allen, and I think I posted both videos of this, so you can see it. Follow at Chargers Homer. You can see the videos. First one goes up against Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen is essentially kind of pushed out of the way, more or less, and wasn't able to get a reception. Then right afterwards, goes up against little Austin Proehl, who's like kind of shaky, and it's hard to kind of stay with him. Not a chance against Asante Samuel. So Asante is looking very good coming into his element. Folks were a little worried about not hearing his name much early on, but again, they were throwing everything at him. Did you guys see any of the plays of Asante? What do you guys think of him?
Well, this is the second straight practice that he's tapped himself in to go against Keenan, if I'm correct, because he did it yesterday, and then I believe when he did his matchup this morning, it was the same type of scenario. He wanted to go up against him again, and again, that just goes to show you the confidence that even through 9 days of training camp that this young rookie has. And it's just extremely encouraging. I've said you have to have swag in your DNA if you're going to be playing the DB position. And Asante Samuel is just dripping with it, apparently. But he's backing it up on top of it, which is the most important.
It's something to see. Today,
are you at an Air Force Base, Dan? Are you like?
I'm by an airport.
He's in the tower. He's actually he's navigating air control traffic right now.
Someone's gonna buzz the tower soon here.
I love it. No, it's great.
Somebody asked a question about a player. I don't necessarily know. Maybe this was a typo, but Mr. Derek Ford asked thoughts on KJ Sales. I believe he means KJ Hill.
No, he means KJ Sales.
Signed today.
Just signed today.
USF.
Cousin of Jaleel Adai, actually.
Friend of the show, Derek Ford, keep me on point. Fellas, what are your thoughts?
I don't know a ton about him, I'll be honest, but he's
I mean,
out of USF, he'll be a depth guy to come in and running camp. So it's something I will look into more, but yeah, I don't know a ton about him, to be honest.
I've literally been stuck in traffic for like 17 hours today, so I have not been able to do any
breaking news
other than
in Wolkenstein then.
Yeah, it was literally. Jake, anything?
No, same as Ryan. I mean, it's as of right now, it's competition. So we'll see what the next 3 weeks bring for him. It's gonna. I mean, you're coming into the DP position. It sounds like it's just a camp body right now. Ryan Smith still hasn't been practicing. We'll see what comes of it. There's nothing much that can really be said at this point in time, but we'll keep an eye out on it.
Yeah, and I think that brings them up to like 88 on the roster, and they'll have to go back down to like 83 or something after the preseason game next weekend. So we'll see what kind of impact that has.
Now, apparently we got a Cowboys fan in the house. Cade McDonald sends in the comment, as a Cowboys fan, it killed me to watch your offensive line guy get taken off the board, assuming we're talking about number 13, Rashawn Slater.
Probably. Cowboys had the chance to
They went
get
Micah
him.
Parsons.
Yeah.
And instead of going them, they went Micah Parsons, which
we'll see
Micah Parsons looks very good over there in Dallas. And Jake,
and we all know you're a big.
You're not going to hurt
Did you see him?
He's talking about Micah Parsons. So if anything, he's going to come back to you and be thinking and be saying the exact same thing, that he's hurting because the Dallas Cowboys took his guy in the draft. So you're not hurting Dan's feelings at all with any of that.
Nope, not at all. Cover 2 Press asked the question, do you think Justin Herbert will take a step backwards this year? If I was a betting man, like, this might be a hot take. I don't know if it's a hot take, but like, it's going to be hard for Justin Herbert to, like, if you just look at the season as a whole and look at his just stats for a sec. I want to say it was like 36 total touchdowns, 10 interceptions, including the rushing touchdowns that he had. Like, just take that snapshot. Like, it's not easy to get those numbers in the NFL. Granted, he'll have another game under his belt, so he can pad the stats a little bit.
2 more games, technically. Yeah.
Oh, good point. Okay, so yes, he will do better. But I don't like, even if he isn't better and is just the same, like, that's okay. Justin Herbert did great. I'm not worried about it, especially under this new scheme. But do I think he will take a step backwards? No.
And this is a topic that I think all of us has talked about a lot this offseason, and it kind of depends how you define, like, take a step backwards. Like, does he have a little bit less flair and, like, higher stats, but does he have more efficiency and the Chargers win more? Which I would not call that a step backwards. If you're throwing less yards, throwing less touchdowns, but the Chargers now are winning 10 games and he's, quarterbacking them. So kind of just depends how you define step back. I don't see it personally. We did an article about the sophomore slump and how that's a moniker used so often, but when you really look at it, not many quarterbacks actually even have a sophomore slump. Like when you look over the last 2 decades, when you look at first round or starting rookie quarterbacks, there's been very few that have had a true sophomore slump, in defined by how everyone kind of views it as like a big fall off. So I really don't think he'll take a step back. He'll be, again, maybe some growing pains a little bit in the first couple of weeks with this new scheme, but the scheme overall is much more efficient the way that the Lombardi wants to run things. So it's very, in a way, quarterback friendly. It's complicated, a lot of personnel groupings, but in a way it can be quarterback friendly. Whereas the prior scheme was like, hey, go make a play, go make something happen. And he did, obviously. But I think this will be much more efficient. So we'll see maybe less like air yards. I don't think we'll see Herbert throwing 10, 50-yard bombs a game, but we'll see a lot of efficient throws that they can get a lot of yak with the group of running backs and receivers they have.
Yeah, I mean, where's your barometer of success? Where is your barometer that if he doesn't do X, that it's considered a step back or it's considered a failure? To me, it's like, hey, while the stats are good and exciting, I would rather like to have Justin Herbert not have to go out and score 35 points a game to win. I would rather not have him have to come back and win these games and get killed behind his offensive line. I'd rather see efficiency and more wins in the win column. The reason that I don't think that he's going to take a step back, and if you want something that's a little bit of proven track record for him now, go all the way back to Oregon. Look what he's done over the past 4 years. This would be the 4th straight year going back to his time at Oregon that he's had different coaches or different coordinators, and he's been able to adapt and produce in every single one of them. So while it may not be at the NFL level, it still shows that he can adapt to new personnel when it comes to coaching staff. So we talked to Fernando about this. He has zero issue at all. He's not even thinking about there's going to be any chance for a sophomore slump, given just the way that Justin approaches the game and for the fact that he's been doing this for the past going on 4 years now. So for me, as Ryan said, yeah, you're going to have your bumps in the road there, but with the personnel that's around him right now, and if the offensive line does their job and the defense does their job, I don't see how there's any possibility here of there being a dramatic sophomore slump. I mean, hey, you want to take perception's reality? I'd rather be seeing this than what I'm seeing from Bengals camp right now. That's some scary stuff.
Yeah. Hate to see it, but those that don't know, Joe Burrow apparently looks really bad. Really bad. Hopefully he'll get over that. Yeah, exactly. Got the yips.
Yep. Friend of the show, Craig Smith, asked a question about the middle of the defensive line and if there were any standouts. Today, we saw a lot of reps from Jerry Tillery. And Middle of the D line, again, we need to be careful with this because there's linemen, there's cover guys, and then there's folks in the back. And D line, to me, in this system, like that could easily be Kyzir White. Like that could easily be Kenneth Murray. That could easily be a Chris Rumpf. Like there's so many guys that can come out of it. So specifically, if we're talking about like the Tilleries, the Justin Jones, the Chris Rumpfs, the Linval Joseph type, honestly, yesterday's camp, defense held up the run game excellent. Like I don't think we saw any runs, Jake, of more than like 5 yards, maybe. I mean,
there wasn't any.
Some of them they let them go, but like their running game was going nowhere. Today, running games. Now again, sides are going to win and lose depending on the day. Today, the running game was good. So run blocking was good. Now again, is that the run blocking was good or the penetration was bad? You know, it's a little bit of both. But overall, defensive line looked good yesterday. Today, offense got the best of them. San Diego Fishin', I'm thinking that's what SD stands for. Asked an interesting question here. Jake, I'll let you run with this one first. Which position group has looked the weakest?
Oh, this is interesting. I mean,
Special teams.
Weakest? I mean,
bing, bing, bing.
Yeah, if you were to characterize it like that, I mean, the one that has been getting the most work of the practices that I've watched and that we've seen, it just seems like it's a trend now. I mean, and why not? Special teams needs the most work. I mean, hey, look at last year, absolutely abysmal. And it seems like it's been abysmal for about the past 5 years. So what Darius Swinton's doing, putting the emphasis on what needs to be done, the fundamentals of special teams. By the way, if you haven't watched his video that has about 98 words per second that he's speaking in it, it's beautiful. But that really seems to be the emphasis when you're watching practice. I don't want to say that I would take it away from anything else that hasn't really underperformed, or have they not really gotten the snaps or the opportunity, or nobody has stood out. Again, it depends on what your barometer is here of week. But yeah, to see special teams getting the most work that they need when there's a kicking competition now, when you got two other guys that it's now battling against Badgley, when you're just practicing the fundamentals of kickoff and punt return duties at that length, definitely seems like that's the position group to zero in on.
I took my father with me to training camp today, and without any sort of introduction into why, my dad looks at me and goes, "They're doing a lot of special teams. Why are they doing this?" I said, they had the worst special teams in the NFL last year, and they haven't looked good so far. And he's like, "I've never seen so much special teams at a training camp before. I didn't realize they would do this much." And I'm like, it's been that bad. Special teams has not looked good. Today's special teams didn't look too bad. I probably saw more punt returns from KJ Hill and Austin Prohl and the group than I have at any other training camp. They're probably out there for half an hour, literally just catching punts.
Dan, was there any drops for either guy?
I did not see a drop.
That's good.
Whether or not he actually dropped it, I'm not sure, but I didn't see one. And folks did look pretty comfortable, which was nice. So special teams, and I will say that mic'd up that we had of Darius Swinton for special teams coach was something that I think a lot of people take for granted. You know, they talk about special teams and why it could be bad or why it was bad, but you forget, like, these guys are young. These guys need to know the fundamentals, and they haven't had a good special teams coach that can kind of get back to basics. And you heard Drew Tranquil talk about on a previous episode where this coaching staff is making them do all of the fundamental stuff first before getting into anything. And that's what they're doing here. So you saw times where they would pretend like they're doing field goal or punt blocks. Then you have the defense basically, or the blocking team would have to go find where the ball is without actually being kicked. So they turn around, and we hear the special teams coach constantly asking, "Where are you at? Where are you at?" He's screaming at all of them. And I mean, you saw just repetition after repetition after repetition. It goes, I think, a little bit unthanked now, but this is the stuff that I think we're all going to be so grateful for once the regular season starts. And like, I'm all about watching them make mistakes now. Like, get it all done, get it out of the way now, and then we should be fine later, at least in theory.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of fans wonder what the special teams coach actually does, like how a coach can make a special teams unit better. And it's all about, assignments and making sure every player knows their role, their assignment, who they're switching, who they're blocking, whether it's, punt cover, whether it's block, whether it's this or that. And you can see in that video clip of him saying like, whoa, stop. You're blocking the wrong guy. Run it again. Like it's simple things like that, like hat on a hat, who is covering who is blocking who. Whereas if one guy misses up, it wrecks the whole unit, and you're going to have three guys in the punt returner's face if you're not blocking correctly. So it's stuff like that where the coach and the repetition gets it. And then it's on him for situationally to be like, okay, we're calling, a punt right, a punt left, a return right, return left, different things where they can hopefully get a better advantage in field position. But it starts in practice with just knowing your assignments. And that's where the coaching comes in, and where if it's a bad coach, maybe they just don't emphasize that as much, or maybe they just don't put the correct players in. Like it's hard to say like what makes a bad special teams coach. We saw it on the field, but we don't without knowing what he was doing differently, I guess. But I think it's just a matter of, guys making mistakes and not replacing them with different guys. Probably that's what it more comes down to, because it's really special teams. As I've said many times, I played it. It's not hard. I mean, it's hard to be good at, but it's simple. Like, okay, I'm blocking this guy the whole way down, or I'm catching the ball, but it's just getting the right people to do it. And maybe they just weren't doing the right personnel, and the special teams coach wasn't scouting the right personnel guys to put out there. Whereas I think Swinton is going to do that this year.
It's fun to see some of the rookies on special teams performing well. I think I saw Chris Rumpf out there on special teams a bit. And just talking about like the rookies as a whole, I don't think people understand like how rare it is to see rookies impact a team this much early on. When the Chargers went, I think it was 12-4, the Derwin James year, we went and beat the Ravens in the playoffs, lost to the Patriots. Chris Harry talked about it where he says like we got so much contribution from so many players that were young. You're kind of seeing that now, where you're seeing like Asante Samuel ball out early. You're seeing Rashawn Slater make an impact early. You're seeing Josh Palmer show why he was picked number 3 and shutting a lot of people up. Mm-hmm. You're seeing like a lot of contribution from guys that we're not used to seeing, and that doesn't normally happen. And it was kind of fun. I guess a little segue. Tom Telesco was there today, and he put some FaceTime with some of the fans. And after he did a little mic session with the fans, and whenever I got a chance to talk to him about it, and just kind of talked to him about like his overall feelings of the team, talked to him about like what rookies he was excited for, talked to him about specifically, we talked about Josh Palmer for a bit, and like how excited he is just for this entire group, and seeing the kind of emergence of this team and the rookies kind of impacting so early. Like there's a reason why these guys were picked. There's a reason why Tom Telesco was so excited, and why he is so excited. And so he also talks about a bit the complexity of the defense, and actually liking the fact that both sides are having to compete really hard against each other. And it's confusing in a good way. And it was nice to see how energized and how refreshing it was to kind of have this new infused energy with both sides of the ball, top to bottom, coaching staff, general manager, you name it. It's definitely like a new feeling. So that was a kind of a fun moment.
To put in contrast real quick, when looking at the Rams and their rookie class, and this is nothing against the rookie class, but they are not nearly as involved as this Chargers class. So I think that tells you a lot about the onus the Chargers have put in with their young group. And the Rams, obviously being a playoff team, have a better veteran presence. And so that's part of it. But I think it just shows how much the Chargers believe in this young group to come and make an impact right away.
Yep. Yeah, we are closing out with live Chargers camp day number 9 recaps. We're going to try to go till got about 15 more minutes left to try to do a short, succinct one here. Again, if you have any questions, comments, feel free to reach out to us in the comments, and we'll try to get them as much as we can into the show. Blue Deftone asked the question, do you think Darius Swinton will help improve our special teams this year? Definitely think it will be better than it was last year, and it was atrocious.
Can't get any worse.
Yeah, can't get any worse, man. Cannot possibly get any worse.
Only can go up.
That's the short answer at this point.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's what I was talking about earlier. Putting the right personnel groupings in there, teaching guys about who they have, what assignments they have, and really put an onus on it. And they've done that in practice. So I think 100% they'll be better than last year.
Jason Burrick asked the question. Excellent podcast, guys. Thank you. Coming from Panama. Love it. Which so-called starter is more likely to lose his job over TC?
Lose it, like get cut or just not be a starter anymore? I'm assuming just not be a starter anymore.
Likely
I'm assuming
to
not be a
lose his
starter.
Job. I won't say, I mean, I won't say technically like get cut, but if you're saying some surprise starter, maybe Kyzir White from everything that we've seen there, but I still think all things point to Drew Tranquil and Kenneth Murray being that combination.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Good call, Jake.
Other than that, I can't really think of anybody that's going to lose their starting job right now. I think all starters are pretty much locked into their positions, but you may just see more of a heavy rotation than what you would expect for the way that Kyzir White has been balling out in training camp.
KJ Hill maybe on special teams, if you want to consider him a starting punt returner.
Yeah, I guess technically. Michael Badgley, kicker.
Now that's one that's my fault. I should have thought that. That's my fault. And
Good
Ryan,
call.
I have to thank you for that and for putting up the bet that I requested because
Let's throw that. I'll throw that up on the screen while you're talking. How about that?
yeah, that works. We had this talk 2 days ago, Dan, about the kicking competition, and yes, I was on the show and I was saying, hey, look, if I were to put money right now, what's it going to be? I know we still have the training camp games to actually play, but so far, as whatever you want to say about special teams right now, Badgley had a good day yesterday. I don't think that Alex Kessman was kicking yesterday. I don't know what was done today, Dan. I don't know if you could shed any light on that. But I put Alex Kessman in as my pick to possibly unseat Michael Badgley from the starting position. Obviously, as you can see now on the graphic, people have some different thoughts about that as they went a different direction, which is totally fine because all three kickers have literally been at a dead heat with one another.
Funny a split like that. For folks who are not watching or going to be listening to this later, Michael Badgley is not winning his competition according to the fans. Neither is Tristan. Looks like it's Kessman.
Kessman's winning, or Vizquendo is winning right now.
Oh, sorry. I was looking at the wrong color. You're right. Vizcaíno, right? Is that we pronounce it 4 syllables?
Tristan Vizcaíno.
It's funny, Ryan. I put up again, the way it's shown here, very similar poll to the question that I asked, because I asked the same question. I said, if you were putting money down on the kickers, and it's Vizcaíno at 36% leading the way, and Alex Kessman and Badgley are literally neck and neck at 31.6. So,
yeah,
still staying consistent.
Head to LAFBnetwork.com, and you guys can vote on that prop there.
Dan Thibault, I believe you're coming from Canada. I think you've talked to us on Chargers Unleashed. You've been a friend of the show calling in before. You've asked a question about interior defensive line. We talked about it already earlier in the show, but long story short, interior defensive line is looking fine. Defensive line as a whole is looking pretty good. Run defense yesterday looked great. Today, running game got the better of them. SD Fishin comments that Anthony Lynn for next special teams coach and Phillip Rivers for next OC quarterback coach. Safe to say thanks, but no thanks on the first one?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Maybe in about 5 years.
Hopefully there's just no turnover. Yeah, hopefully this staff works out.
I don't know what I'd rather have. Would I rather have Phillip Rivers in the booth calling games with Tony Romo? Or would I rather have him be the quarterback's coach of this team? I don't know. For pure entertainment value, I would love to see Phillip Rivers and Tony Romo go with one another.
Yeah, in the booth. Jeremy Michaud? I'm going to go with like a New Orleans-y name for that one, the French accent. Mark Webb, is he still not practicing? Mark Webb was out there in practice, was not participating in any of the drills, still nursing his injury, so not quite 100% yet. I want to say T. Billy also is not out there yet. I think Brandon Staley may have said today that he's not expecting him to be ready tomorrow either for FanFest. That takes care of the mark.
They're taking it slow for all these guys, which is fine. I mean,
I'm cool with it.
Yeah,
I'm fine with that. Yep.
None of them seem like long-term stuff. So
yeah, we're going to talk about the 6-letter word. I had to remember how to spell.
Don't say it. Just
we're talking about the word. Do we feel that Michael Jones asked the question? Do we feel the team is more healthy due to better conditioning? Derwin looks leaner. You heard about Staley emphasizing K9's body, fat percentage, etc., whereas Lynn and Bradwell practicing at 240.
Bradwell's still big, by the way. So
yes,
it's not. If you're gonna throw him in at the end there, he's still probably 240. So
Right.
that wasn't a Lynn issue.
Everything that Lynn was giving him criticism for last year, it doesn't look like he listened to it. So,
Yes.
No, but hey, maybe that's just how his body rolls. Pun unintended or intended, depending on how you want to look at it. But no, K9, Kenneth Murray is looking trimmed this year. He talked about his body fat percentage is lower than it was last year. We're talking about Derwin James. I was joking around with, I think it was you, Jake, or maybe it was my dad today, but saying, man, like Derwin James abs need some work. Like he has 8, you should have like 10. The guy's just chiseled. It's ridiculous.
well, I mean,
is it due to
he has been training to get back into playing shape for a lot longer than these guys have.
That is true. Now, do we think that is because of better conditioning? Like, is it just those two guys in particular, or like, have you seen an overall kind of theme with this team having better conditioning?
Well, I mean, you have to up until July 28th or whatever, and obviously your week of minicamp and your few OTAs. I mean, all the stuff, all the conditioning these guys do is in their own time, like with their own private trainers and this. It's not at the team facility, especially now with the new CBA, with all the COVID protocols. Like they're not with the team in the facility hardly at all in the offseason anymore up until training camp starts. So, yes, to answer the question, it's definitely due to more conditioning, but it's not just this coaching staff. Maybe they put an onus on it in like meetings, like, hey, we want you to do this, but it's all in their private time. And then now that they're in camp, I'm sure they do, they have different weight room regimens and different, they have a new lifting coach, strength and conditioning coach that has different ways he does things. But I know there's so much hate for Anthony Lynn and that staff, rightfully so. But a lot of stuff you see now, as good as this staff is, as much as we all love Stanley's staff, a lot of this is just guys in their own time putting in the work in the offseason. It's not because they can't even be at the team facility.
We're wrapping up day 9 of Chargers training camp. For folks who are listening to us or watching us live, if you have not already, please hit the like button, hit subscribe on YouTube, both for the Chargers YouTube, Chargers Unleashed YouTube, and Chargers, why not? As well as LA Football Network, Ryan's LA Football Network YouTube channel. Hit the like and subscribe and bell notifications. Make sure you don't miss any content from us. We are wrapping up. We've got about 5 minutes left here. Let's see if we can get through rapid fire as many questions of these as we can.
Do this one just because I've seen him. I think he's asked it twice. So let's.
I was just going to bring that up. Yep.
Okay, cool, perfect.
Craig Smith, friend of the show again, brings up Casper the Friendly Ghost impressions, asking about Joe Reed. How is he still doing his Casper the Friendly Ghost impression? I really want to see him get a shot in this offense. Shane Day's Niners influence, i.e. Deebo Samuel,
He's been hanging out with the ghost of Mike Davis that Keenan Allen forced. So they've been hanging out together.
Woo! That was clean.
I mean, Dan, you were at practice today. Did you see any additional snaps? God, wow.
My eyes did not see one snap that went
not even on
Joe
special
Reed.
teams.
I don't think I saw Joe Reed on special teams.
Still amazing.
I don't think. I could be wrong. But I remember seeing other folks. I don't remember seeing him.
Yeah. So preseason will tell us more, obviously, in games. But so far for training camp guys, Joe Reed's not making this team right now.
The only hope that Joe Reed has right now is they are holding that magic in the hat until regular season or preseason, and then bringing out some of those plays or special teams later.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's not looking good for Joe Reed.
Which I think pains me too. And I think, sorry to cut you off, I think it would also require them to keep 7 receivers. I don't think you're keeping him as one of the 6 at this point, if you're keeping 6.
No, I don't think you can, at this point, keep him over Austin Proehl. Shout out to Ryan, who has been conducting that caboose since day 1 on that train.
Express, baby.
Let's go rapid fire. How is Palmer looking so far?
Oh my
Ryan.
God. Oh.
2 thumbs up. Fantastic. Love it.
Yeah.
Jake.
Amazing.
Cool. All right. Better roster from SD Fishing asks, better roster, Rams or Chargers?
More proven roster, Rams. On paper, it's more even than people think.
That freaking word. Phrase.
It's a horrible phrase.
Yep. Yeah, it's the truth.
No, you're right. Better roster on paper, the Chargers. Above average gamer
you think it's better on paper?
On paper, he thinks it's better.
Yes.
Okay. I think it's pretty even, but yeah.
But when you say the phrase on paper, it pretty much discounts the entire sentence itself. So.
I know. Well, he started it. I finished it. All right. Above Average Gamer asked the question, who's the biggest player to pick up in fantasy? I think there's three people.
Plenty.
I think there are three people that could be in the running for this.
I mean,
Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen's easy. If you had Austin Eckler on your team last year, don't let what happened last year defer you away from going to him this year.
Have a
the way that they want to implant him, like in an Alvin Kamara role, everything that we've heard from Joe Lombardi, definitely go out and get him. I said it a couple days ago, Dan. I think Jared Cook has sneaky fantasy value this year. I'm not sure what round you'd pick him up, but I think he would be a great option.
Yep. Peter King on his podcast with Chris Harry, shout out to Chris Harry, friend of the show, said that Jared Cook was his impact player for the Chargers to watch for. So take that for what you will. Kevin asked the question, how is the coaching team gelling? As a fan from the outside, they seem more professional than previous coaching teams.
They just run things differently. I think they look great. It's just a different urgency in practice we've seen. Very buttoned up, well organized, no wasted motion, no wasted time, no wasted space, and just a lot of urgency. All good things.
Yeah, Brandon Staley even said today that he was giving a lot of kudos to Shane Day's coaching perspective, as his versatile background, and from his indications, he says that him and Joe Lombardi have been gelling very well thus far.
Yes. When I was talking to Tom Telesco, he was actually talking about how excited he was for his coaching staff, and he said he wished that everybody was able to hear the way that Brandon Staley coaches all the time. And I actually made the suggestion. You know what he should do is have be mic'd up live and have it pumped up out to the fans that are out there for training camp. And he looked at me, he's like, it's actually a really good idea. So if we see that happening, we'll see if they're actually allowed to do that. But he said he doesn't curse much, so it could happen. So if we see that, you're welcome. You might be able to get more Brandon Staley. All right, we're wrapping up. We got about 3 minutes left here. We're going to end at 5 till half past the hour. Kinzel asks the question, thoughts on who will be RB3 and CB3? Jake, RB3 goes to? On the spot.
I'm still going to say what I said earlier. Preseason games are going to tell us a lot. I think it's still going to go to Roundtree for RB3. CB3. This should be Chris Harris, no question.
Yeah, how do you define it again?
Yeah. If you're talking about your outside corners, then Faison's probably going to be your guy by default. But if you're just talking about when 3 DBs are on the field and depending on the rotation, there was even talk today about Derwin James and Chris Harris playing different roles. So Staley even said when Derwin's going to play in the slot role, Chris Harris is going to go back to the safety and play Derwin's role. So, where do you put him? But it's CB3. It's still Chris Harris's job right now as far as if you're ranking it for the depth chart wise.
Ryan, do you agree?
Yeah, for CB, yeah, again, it's DBs. So you're looking right now at Mike Davis, Chris Harris, and Faison, with Asante Samuel Jr. basically going to be a heavy rotation and probably the starter at some point. Running backs, I think Joshua Kelley's going to be RB2, Justin Jackson RB3.
Whoa!
Woo! Hot takes getting hot in here. We're going to end on that one, huh?
Oh my
Cold beer and hot takes, man. I'm still waiting for the shirt.
Cold beer and hot takes, baby.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, that answers above average gamers question. Did you talk about Kelley? What did he impress on? Kelley did look good today.
Coaching staff even said how good he's catching the ball out of the backfield. Remember, take note of that.
Yep. No. And Joshua Kelley did have a good day today. So I don't know if he's the RB2, but we will see. Guys, I think that's going to wrap it up. Again, we talked about all kinds of stuff. We talked about Tom Telesco. We talked about the run blocking, Josh Kelley. We talked about Jalen Guyton's catch. We talked about Justin Herbert. We talked about Keenan Allen breaking ankles, Joey Bosa strip sack, special teams, you name it. This was a huge, huge day for Chargers training camp. People came out more or less unscathed. And next stop, SoFi Stadium, Fan Fest. Get there early. I believe the doors open, I think, at 11 o'clock. And practice starts at 3, I believe. For folks who are chiming in for the first time, thank you so much for joining us. Ryan, thanks for joining us, man. I know you have put in so much work for the network, for all of the podcasts, and how you are with us on Saturday, man. This is awesome.
Dang, I love being on with you guys, so thank you. It's all of our stuff, so it's great. It's always
Jake,
fun.
Are you still enjoying doing nothing this weekend?
Yes. Man, yes. Yes. In short, yes. I love lazy weekends.
Enjoy
Good.
it.
Well,
I'm jealous.
I know, man. Me too. For folks who have not been to Brewery X, that's what I've been drinking. Make sure that you try them out. If you're in the Inland Empire, UFC Fit in Temecula grand opening was 2 weeks ago. They have awesome stuff there. You can check out cryotherapy, all kinds of hydro massages, classes, fit, you name it. Check them out. Brewery X, Manscaped. Use the code LAFB20, save 20%, and you get free shipping on all of your male grooming needs from head to toe. And I'd argue not even just male grooming needs, for all the needs out there. Again, LAFB20, save 20%, free shipping at manscaped.com. Gentlemen, it has been a pleasure. Folks, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And we will talk to you next time. Have a great rest of the weekend. See you guys at SoFi tomorrow for FanFest. Enjoy the afternoon. We will talk to you next time. Chargers Unleashed, we are out of here. Have a good rest of the afternoon and weekend. Peace out, guys.
Peace.